To those that are following on YouTube, I'm again excusing myself for not having any camera. All there is audio. That's the way things are in a world that is trying to, that sometimes tries to mess up a little bit good stuff. So we ignore the challenge and we're going to get the cameras going, Be'ezus Hashem, in a big way. But for now, we'll have to deal with audio only. Okay, everybody's with me. So here I am, reeling, literally reeling from everything that's going on in the world in the last couple of days, the last couple of months, and the last 2 years. I mean, it's unbelievable how we're experiencing the victory of holiness that is on levels unprecedented. And it's not stopping. It's me going mechayel el chayil. It's getting stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger. We were coming from a spiraling of falling lower and lower and lower and lower. And suddenly, everything is everything turned over, and we're in an upward swing, culminating in yesterday's sweeping, incredible election in Eretz Yisroel. What I mean sweeping is that, as we're going to see soon, the entire Israel moved to the right. There's nothing in the left anymore. There used to be a tremendous left side in Israel, and the left side is primarily, at least, not that interested in a holy outlook on life, a godly outlook on life. And it's a very secular approach to everything. And what happened in yesterday's election is not just that the new government will be Bibi Netanyahu's government, which is the most consistent, if you can say, with the Rebbe's ideals of what Torah wants, that we shouldn't give up an inch of land of Eretz Yisrael and we should hold on to it. Of course, there are stronger parties on the right that are maybe even stronger, but, that's at this point not yet realistic, even though with things happening now, it's already a question of what we can see as realistic. It's unbelievable what's going on. Our realism and realistic borders have to grow expand much farther, because all the things that seem to be so impossible are actually not reality. But in any case, so the fact that he won, that's one thing, but what's even a greater miracle is how the entire left was decimated, because the big party, I don't know if you're so familiar with Israeli politics, the big party that was now a challenge for Netanyahu was no more the left. It was the centrist party. It was this Kachol Lavan, which means the blue and white party, which is kind of in the middle. Centrist left. In order for it to build a government, it would have had to join up with extreme leftist parties. But still, it itself presented itself to the middle. What happened to the Israeli left is that literally it emptied out. There are two parties on the left now in Israel that are Jewish, besides the Arabs, and they are Meretz, and they only got three seats. And Avoda, which is Labor, which used to be a party of 40 members. This is the party of Ben Gurion, this is the party of Golda Meir, this is the party of Rabin and Shimon Peres and all these guys. They're down to 6 seats. That means that the entire Israeli left is down to a quarter of what they had before. It's nothing. Everybody moved right, either to the center. But even that right wasn't good enough, and the actual winners is all the way to the right, which is unbelievable, which is just unbelievable. And everything was working against it. The media was working against it. The indictments against Netanyahu, everything was a big war. And the fact that he pulled off a victory, to the point that you're seeing how the Eibishter is laughing. The whole Mashiach process is one of laughter. The Eibishter laughs at Klippa, at the unholy. So you saw it in the American elections, that they were already popping their champagne bottles and sure that the left was going to win and that Hillary Clinton was going to pull off a victory. And it ended up being a laughingstock, that the Eibishter laughed, and he gave a candidate that everybody laughed at. And it's precisely this person that's turning over the world to align far more with what in regarding Eretz Yisrael at least, regarding Jewish matters and so on and so forth, with the will of Torah, regarding morality and in the world as well, many things. Even though he's, as again I mentioned many times, he's not the most refined human being, but that's part of the process, as we're saying. The low things in the world have to be nishapich l'kedusha. It doesn't mean they stop being low. They're low, but in their lowliness, they become allies, supporters, and dedicated and devoted to holiness, and that's what we've seen. Any case, this is what's going on. Now, I've been learning this Sikha, and why did I learn this Sikha? Because initially I said, okay, this is something that we should learn now. It's 90 years, and this year is a 90 year. And the Rebbe was becoming that year, entering into his 90th year. The Rebbe was actually becoming 89 that year. His birthday, 89th birthday, he was entering into 90, and the Rebbe started saying Kapitel Tefillah L'Moshe, and in that Kapitel, the Rebbe was revealing how that is the Kapitel of Mashiach. That is the 90th year. That's when Tefillah L'Moshe, that's when Moshe Rabbeinu's power is released and revealed in the world, which is the power of Geula. Moshe Goyal Rishon Goyal Achrein. Moshe is the first Goyal. Moshe is the later Goyal. That's I lost my thought for a second. So that's why I wanted to learn it. I was saying, okay, this year is also 90. Why is this year 90? Because in terms of the Rebbe's birthday, it was 90. From his birth, it was 90 years. Then Tafshin Mem Tes. But in terms of the Rebbe's wedding, which makes the Rebbe connected to us, this is the 90th year. So since this is the 90th year, and that's already more the shaykhus to the Rebbe's Nesius as a Rebbe. So that's why I was excited to learn the beer that the Rebbe is going to say over here about 90. I started learning it and I started teaching it, and I wasn't feeling the energy. And I taught it last week and I taught it the week before, but I just really wasn't feeling the energy. To the point that I was lazy today. I'm sorry for my confession. I was lazy. And I was busy sitting over here instead of preparing this year and reading up on the elections yesterday and trying to figure out what, where, and when. And then, I'm sorry, I'm doing a confession on the phone. And then I said, you know what, Oivei Gavalda shir is in a half an hour. So I grabbed the Sefer and I said, let me learn. And oh my goodness, I read the same words last week, but they didn't ring a bell with me. They didn't resonate. And I'm reading it now and I'm exploding. I'm saying, wow, I can't believe this. In this Sikha, where the Rebbe is talking about is everything that's happening in the world right now. And the power of who is doing it and why he's doing it and how he's doing it. It's all unbelievably stated here. Okay, that's my introduction. So if you're excited to listen, stay on. If it doesn't intrigue you, then okay, go back to your Pesach cleaning. But if this does intrigue you, stay with me and let's learn this. Let's see what the Rebbe is saying over here. So last week, I'm just going to do brief synopsis. That last week we discussed the Rebbe's main nekud in this. First of all, it's a Shabbos Hagadol talk, and the Rebbe is talking about in the beginning. He asked the question, why lamake Mitzrayim bivchodeim? Why the neis gadol of makas b'chodes? Why is that? Why is the neis gadol of makas b'chodes the ultimate story of Sipur Yetzias Mitzrayim? Begins the miracles of Yetzias Mitzrayim starts with the neis gadol of makas b'chodes. I mean, it's one of the miracles that happened, that there was a civil war in Mitzrayim. Why do we make such a big deal about it? And then the Rebbe said, to understand it, we need to understand who Moshe Rabbeinu is. Why the Geula had to come from Moshe Rabbeinu. So let me keep you, I'm going to keep you in suspense. The Rebbe is going to develop the idea that the reason why Moshe has to do the Geula is that the point of the Geula is that the world should become completely permeated permanently with Elokus, with the Eibishter's emes. For that, in order to accomplish that the world should become permeated and completely saturated with Elokus in a permanent way that should last forever, it can't come from a person who's part of the world, because the world by its very definition is limited, and it can't fathom, it can't facilitate an Ein Sof. The Ein Sof, the infinite God, it can't. So the world can't achieve it. You need a power that's beyond the world. You need an omnipotent power. And it's not even enough, the power of the Eibishter. When we say the world can't do it, we mean even the godly powers that are within creation can't accomplish it. Because they too are measured and part of a Seder Ishtalshalus, part of a system that kind of respects the creation and respects the limits of the creation, and so you might say like self-limiting kind of level of the divine, and therefore it has its own rules and regulations that it can't bypass. And therefore, in order to accomplish Geula, you need a superpower. You need someone who can veto, so to speak, the world, can veto can override. That's the right word. Can override the limitations of the world. And the Rebbe says that's the first power of Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu is, we say he's a Ish Elokim, means he's a divine man. But the Rebbe says it's not really in the word Ish Elokim that makes him so super powerful. It's mainly in the word Moshe. Moshe has the main significance. There's two words over here: Moshe, Ish Elokim. Because Ish means he's part of the world. Ish, he's a man. Elokim also, even though it means divine, but it's the divinity that is related to tzimtzum, to contraction, to the world, that does not have the power to override the creation, because Beresh is bara Elokim. With Elokim, Hashem set the rules, so he can't transcend the rules. Dafka Moshe, the Rebbe says, Moshe is min Maayon mishesuhu. He's someone who comes from another planet. He comes from the other world. He comes from beyond. He comes from the water. He comes from Amadis Kasi. In Chassidus, that means he comes from Shem Havaya. What is Elokim is the powers that are revealed in creation. Havaya is the infinite transcendental light. Moshe is drawn from there. Moshe is from the Shem Ma. Manachnu Ma. Ma is the infinite light of the Or Sof. And that's why Moshe Rabbeinu has the power to change the world. But the Rebbe says, okay, if that's what Moshe is all about, so why does he also have to be Ish Elokim? So the Rebbe says it's not enough to have a superpower that can transform everything, snap his fingers, and make the Eibishter real in this world, because then it's going to be real in this world, but it's never going to be part of the world. It's going to be a reality superimposed on creation. In order that it shouldn't be a superimposed reality on the creation, it has to be something that gets internalized within the world. So it has to come from the world. It can't come from the power to make it happen, to connect, to make the world into a keli, to connect these two inyanim has to come from a power beyond creation. That's the Moshe in Moshe. But the power to make the world receive it in a pnimius, that means it has to be invited in from within the world. The character, the nature of the world itself, daf sich mannen, has to demand elokus, getlichkeit, holiness. And that's the idea of Ish Elokim. That Moshe is also an Ish. He's a human being. Moshe has a human side. He's a lokus that's completely beyond creation, but he also has he's an Ish. And he's Ish Elokim, which means he also represents the godliness that is measured, and in other words, he can speak to you in a language that you can understand. He's not going to bambezzle you with light every time he opens his mouth. He can talk to you and have a regular conversation like a human being, giving you advice of how do you live your life. As I mentioned last week, similar to the concept of shoif tayech, of the shoifet, the judge who hands down the verdict from above, and yoyetzayich means your personal counselor who shows you what's good for you. Moshe Rabbeinu has these two powers, and because of that, he's able to accomplish. And what's the tefillah l'Moshe? The whole tefillah l'Moshe Ish Elokim is all about a tefillah that Moshe was davening to enable the Shechina to come down and rest in the Mishkan, which is what happened Chodesh Nisan, which is the whole theme of making the whole world into a godly place. The Eibishter comes to live in this world. And without Moshe's tefillah, it couldn't happen. Tefillah l'Moshe. And what does Moshe say in his tefillah? We remember last week we discussed, to the end of tefillah l'Moshe ends with two things. Ma'aseh yadeinu koinenehu, or Ma'aseh yadeinu koinen aleinu, and Ma'aseh yadeinu koinenehu. The Rebbe asks, what's the redundancy? The work of his hands, koinen aleinu, should be established upon us, and the work of his hands, koinenehu, should be established, it itself should be established. So the Rebbe says these are the two peulas of Moshe and Ish Elokim. Koinen aleinu is that when we build a Mishkan and the Eibishter comes to live upon us, it's the superpower from above that we're enabling such a chibur to happen. It's beyond the rules. We have just went beyond the capacity, what is possible. We just accomplished the impossible. But that is coming through a power that's koinen aleinu. It's a power that's transcendent. It's above us. It's not from within the world. In order for it also to be from within the world, from below, there also has to be koinenehu, that the world itself is established firmly. The world itself is calling for decency, holiness, godliness, to follow what the Eibishter wants, not just as a superpower from the outside. To the point that you don't even realize that power, that doesn't say this, but I'm just explaining it. It's almost like people are making their decision without any external influence, that this is what they want. Okay? This is the idea of Moshe Rabbeinu that we learned last week, and why he is the only one. He works from above and he works from below, and he unifies them together. Now the Rebbe in today's portion goes ahead to explain why that is all shaykhs to 90. What that means in the Rebbe's life, that means when the Rebbe hits Shnas HaTishim. And when the Rebbe hit Shnas HaTishim, then the Rebbe began the transformation of the world, as we're going to see soon. But when the Rebbe hit now Shnas HaTishim, this Shnas HaTishim of this year, everything that was going on the last 30 years, when the Rebbe hit Shnas HaTishim when is this? In Nun Aleph, so not 28 years ago. Koyach. All this that was happening then is now coming begilui in the world in such an open, unbelievable manner. So let's see. What does that have to do with 90? So the Rebbe says there's two things. Number one, the number 90. Okay, the number 90 is extremely, I'll show you what I am chazering now. I'm holding by Sif Tes, because I would tell you right now to take this sikha and learn it with every person you can find. Grab every Jew and learn the sikha with them. Definitely with your family, with your congregation. I mean, obviously, this has to be broken down that people can understand it. But I'm holding over here on page 403 in Sefer HaSichos, Sif Tes. And it says like this. The two reasons why it's shaykh to number 90. Reason number one, it's shaykh to number 90 is because we're talking about creating a chibur, an attachment of the Eibishter in the world that should be everlasting. That's Mashiach's accomplishment. And that's really Moshe Rabbeinu's accomplishment. Moshe Emes, Teirase Emes, Moshe's Nitzchias. And whatever Moshe did is eternal. Moshe is not here to play games. Moshe is not here to start things and not finish. Moshe is real. He's the real deal. Whatever he does is going to be forever. That's why the Mishkan actually was never destroyed. The Beis HaMikdashim was destroyed, but not the Mishkan. Mishkan is eternal. And that's why Moshe Rabbeinu Goyal Risha and Goyal Achron, because he's eternity. And what's his eternity is that he connects the Eibush to the world ba'ofen nitzchi. What's the proof to that? The proof to that is that a fellow by the name of Reuven Wolf today put on tefillin. Why in the world 3,000 later did I go and put on boxes on my head today? And other things to do. I was actually busy with a pretty important video that we're releasing, Be'ezus Hashem. With this, and why did I go stop and put on film today? I cannot not put on film. Why can't I not put? Because Moshe Rabbeinu said that 3,500 years ago, and I cannot not put on tefillin. But it's not just me; it's millions of other Jews. Because Moshe asked that tefillin should be put on. Moshe is forever, and you're cleaning and scrubbing every nook and cranny in your kitchen and in your house, and going crazy. The Rebbe should give you brachas. You should have the koiches to do it. And working with your Chabad houses and preparing some. It's unbelievable what you're doing. And it doesn't even occur to you this year to strike and not make Pesach. I mean, unless you have a way to go somewhere. But I'm saying, it doesn't. Why? Because Moshe Rabbeinu said it 3,500 years ago. Moshe is Nitzchi. So Moshe is eternal. For Moshe's eternity, and therefore when he brings a lukus down in the world, it's forever. Permanent. That permanent is the idea of chazaka. Chazaka means after 3 times something is chazaka, is strong. That's why Yaakov Avinu is the permanence. Avram Yitzchak, we don't know it's going to last. Yaakov Avinu 3 times. The Rebbe says number 90 is the completion of chazaka. Why? Because a perfect number, the Rebbe says, is times 10. That's a perfect number. So when you have 10, that's considered 1. 3 times 10 is 30. So the Rebbe says already, number 30 is already a pretty strong chazaka, because it's a shleimus, it's times 10, 3 times 10. But the Rebbe says that in order for it to be a shleimus in chazaka itself, the shleimus of chazaka is when you have a chazaka and a triple chazaka 3 times 30. So that's number 90. When you hit that, you're talking about such a strength, such a power, such a permanence that can never be broken. In a sense, the Rebbe is telling us, let me just put that into simple words, that once the Rebbe hits number 90, age 90, all the pa'ulas that he started in the world, whatever he started, his entire Basi Legani, bringing the Shekhinah down into this world as a project, is something that is firm and absolute and unshakable, and it will continue until the finish line. Because it reached 90, it reached that was it. Unshakable and unbreakable. Okay, fine. But watch the next thing that Rebbe says. What else is 90? And remember, in order for something to be chazaka and permanent, it has to be two things. It has to have the power of the infinite, because everything in the world changes. The world, by its very definition, is time and space. Time is constantly changing. Everything comes to a state of erosion. Nothing lasts forever. So it has to have the power of the transcendental, of the Eibishter, that comes from the higher element of Moshe. But it also has to be true to the world, because if it's an overpowering external power and it's not true to the world, it's also not lasting forever. Even if it lasts, it's not a real lasting, because it's not ours. So it has to work, as we said, from above and from below. That's the way you have chazak. That's the power of 90. But then the Rebbe says, and this is crazy. Sorry for my uncontrollable excitement, because listen to this. Just listen to what the Rebbe says. He says that tzaddik, if you take a look at the pirush of the word tzaddik, tzaddik means a righteous person. It's a letter of the aleph base. He says really the real word is not tzaddik. Initially, the way the word is, this letter is called is tzadi. Tzadi, tzaddik, dalid, yud. That's the initial ois, tzadi. Then there are those who added a tzaddik and it became tzaddik. So the Rebbe explains the significance of both. The meaning of the tzadi, and then the meaning of the tzaddik. When you add the kuf, what's the difference of the tzadi and the tzaddik? He says like this. Let's take a look at the essence of that word. Tzad. The word tzadi comes from the word tzad. Tzad means side. Okay? Tzidei HaMishkan, the sides of the Mishkan. Tzad means a side. Tzadi means my side. Tzad sheli. Whenever you have a yud in the end of the word, it means my side. There's tzad, a side. Tzadi, my side. So what does that mean? What does it mean, my side? So again, I should have really processed this much longer so that I can really take it out of the Rebbe's words and hopefully, try to change, to make it understandable and, my own words. And then, obviously, we want to keep it in the Rebbe's words, but on the other hand, to be able to, I didn't really internalize this fully, but even just what I'm seeing now is unbelievable. So please bear with me. Tzad, what does it mean, my side? What's the side of a Jew, the Rebbe says? The side of a Jew is Torah mitzvahs. There's two. The Eibishter created a world. Eibishter created the world. Hashem created two sides. There is a side of holiness, and there's the other side. Chas v'shalom sitra achra, the other side. We're saying tzad sheli, my tzad. Which tzad belongs to a Jew? A Jew sides with holiness. A Jew sides with kedusha. That's the side of a yid. We choose holiness. But the Rebbe asks a simple question. We're choosing holiness. It's our side. The very notion that we're saying it's our side means, are you a Republican or you're a Democrat? I'm Republican. It means I can connect to their views better. I'm a Democrat. I can identify more with with its philosophies and its ideologies and so on and so forth. I'm this, I'm that. But here we're not dealing with some kind of a choice, external choice. You're dealing with your essence. In Torah and mitzvahs is Eibishter. Torah and mitzvahs is Kedusha, is Elokus, is Eibishter. A Jew and the Eibishter are one. A Yid is inseparable from Torah and mitzvahs. It's not your side. What kind of tzad? It's not your side, it's your mitzias. It's your existence. This is your very identity. So the Rebbe says this whole concept of Yiddishkeit being my side is kind of making it far more external than what it really is. So then what's the meaning? What's the secret of the tzaddik? The tzaddik is saying, in Avodah, the Rebbe is learning, what does it mean, Shnas HaTzaddik? What does it mean to serve the Eibishter in the energy of the tzaddik? The idea of a tzaddik is that I identify and I say that Kedusha, holiness, tzad sheli, I vote Kedusha. But the Rebbe says, but how can you say you're voting Kedusha? If Kedusha is your entire metzias, it's your entire existence. You don't live without it. It's your chayas, it's your being. So the Rebbe says, no. You're right. Mitzad the neshama of a yid, Einoid Movado, there's garnish da oisad rebishter. Without Torah and mitzvahs, there's nothing. Other than God, there's nothing else in your life. Your only reality is God, Torah and mitzvahs. That's who you are, what you are, and there's nothing but the Eibishter and truth of Elokus. However, since the Eibishter wants us to be an influencer in this world, Hashem put us into this world so that we can influence the world. And in order we shouldn't be. Now, when influence the world means we have to get the entire world to on our side, on the side of Kedusha. We have to get the entire world to decide to behave in accordance to how the Eibishter wants them to behave, which is to choose a life that is consistent with what the Eibishter wants, of Sheva Mitzvahs B'nai Noach, to live by your moral code, with God's rules. And since the Rebbe says the world, however, is created in a way that the world obscures on the divine, the nature of the world is to live in a state of ignoring the Eibishter. And that's the way it has been for thousands of years. And our avodah is to change the minds of every creature and every being and every object to become in sync with holiness and godliness, which the nature of its existence, by the way God programmed, is the opposite. And how do we do that? We're going to engage the world, and we're kind of going to convince the world to have a change of heart, to have a change of direction. Now, every time you're coming to convince someone, I want to know, if you're coming to convince me, if you want to sell me something, I want to know that you're really interested in my best interest, that you're speaking for my good. If you have your own personal agenda, if you are an educator b'davar, which means you're selling me, if I'm coming into a car dealership, and I don't know if I should buy a Toyota or I should buy a American car, if I should buy a Chevy, a Buick, I don't know, whatever, a Dodge, whatever kind of car. And I can't decide which one. And the salesman is trying to sell me one car over the other. Now, if I'm a smart person, I'll probably realize that he gets a bigger commission on this car than on the other one. And therefore, it's a better deal for him. So I don't trust him. I can't accept what he's telling me. I'm going to try to look to someone who I know who has zero bias. I'm going to call a good friend who knows cars, and I'm going to ask that person. I'm not going to ask the car salesman, because I know he's got a personal gain to get out of it. So here's the problem that Rebbe says. If by a Yid, the Torah is dependent on us and we're dependent on the Torah. Without the Torah, we have no life. And the Torah really has no existence without us. So we're dependent on it and it's dependent on it. And now we're going out with the Torah and the mitzvahs to sell it either to Jews, for whatever, that are not whatever, or even to non-Jews. In what sense can people accept our message if we have no choice? Other than a life other than Torah and mitzvah suffocates us. We don't do well in an ungodly world. Take a look at the Jewish people for the last 3,000 years. We've been butchered, we've been murdered, we've been killed, we've been persecuted, we've been suffered so much. We survived. We're survivors, but we didn't do too well in an un-Torah world. We have to make the whole world godly. So why should the people buy it from us? Therefore, the Eibishter makes it in a way that even though in essence Yiddishkeit, Elokus, is our only metzias, it's our only reality, but not the way when we're born and we come into this world, into a nefesh habahamis and into a guf, the Eibishter conceals that. And it becomes to each and every one of us that there are two choices to live. You can choose to live as a Jew, a life of Torah and mitzvahs, and you can choose to live chas v'shalom, a life that's not Torah and mitzvahs. And then, as a Jew, you use your seichel, you use your instincts, you use your your intuition, you use whatever it is that you're using, and education and all that, that's directing you towards holiness. And then you choose holiness. Ubacharta, you're making the choice. And Yiddishkeit becomes, you voted for Yiddishkeit. You elected to live. You didn't have to. And as making this choice, you realize that this is right, and this is correct, and this is true. Now you have validity. Now a Jew, when he comes to the rest of the world and he says, live Torah and mitzvahs, it's not that you have. In other words, I can convince you to do something if I did it, but if I chose it, not because I have to do that. because it was my choice. Then I said, I chose this, it's a good thing, and therefore I'm convincing you, I know it's good, and I'm convincing you, you should also choose this. But if I have no choice, then what am I telling you? This is the significance of the letter tzaddik, is that we're looking, the Eibishter sets up the world in a way where there are choices to make, and we are standing ki'ilu min hatzad, from the side, and then Yiddishkeit becomes tzadi, my side, the side of holiness. And that's the way we can convince the world to become to choose godliness and choose holiness. Okay, that's the theory. That's the idea. Not that I call it theory. That's the concept behind the letter tzaddik. In other words, the Rebbe says, relating to what we spoke earlier about Moshe Rabbeinu, that Moshe Rabbeinu is an Ish Elokim. So we said earlier that there's two levels in Moshe Rabbeinu. Bear with me just another few minutes, and you're going to see how this mamish is like, wow, this explains everything. We said Moshe Rabbeinu is Moshe, and he's also Ish Elokim. The Moshe element of Moshe is the way things truly are, inside our neshama. Inside our neshama, the reason why a Yid, by the way, has a power to change the world, the true reason we have to change the world, is not because we're such good salesmen. The reason why we can make the entire world and bring the entire world into a morality and bring the whole world to live in accordance to God's will, which, by the way, we've done already. Throughout the entire, we've changed the world. We've made mention out of this whole world. But in the real power that we have to do that is because of the Moshe element inside of us. Is because we have within us the Eibishter's power that is higher than the world, and that's why we can take a world that is antithetical to holiness and transform it. But that's a deep, deep secret. That's that mysterious secret of the Jew that no one can get, is that a Jew is really a being infinitely transcending the world, overpowering the world through divine power from above. But since it has to also be pneumistic, so therefore, in addition to the higher transcendental Jew, there's also, as we said earlier, the Ish Elokim element in every single one of us. And that's the idea of tzaddik in every single Yid's personal avodah, is the way we relate to Yiddishkeit in a way that we make a choice, and we have choices in our life, and we choose that Kedusha is tzad sheli, and as a result of that, we can have an influence on everything around us, that they should accept what we're suggesting and talking about, and making the world a godly place. And that's the second element of Moshe. Ish Elokim is the tzadi element. Tzad sheli, elokus is minor, is my decision and my inyan. So now, listen to this. So first of all, already in the concept of tzadi, just stopping right over here, it's expressing this idea that when we're coming to the Shnas HaTzadik, the influence of Moshe Rabbeinu in the world is one that's not superpower from above, but in a sense, in a way that it's kind of bringing a transformation, not through a visible projection of energy that's thundering and rippling through creation, but in a much softer note. In a note that's, it's allowing the people to find and make their own choice. It's not sheli. By the way, this already explains a lot. This explains the last 20 so years. At the time of 1990, 1991, 1992, we had the thundering power of Moshiach in the world. Powerful, powerful energy that was going to conquer the entire creation. And the Rebbe could have done it without a shadow of a doubt. But the problem is, that's not the mission. The mission is, we're coming to Shnas HaTzadik. Tzadi. We need that the world on its terms should change. The world on its terms. And first of all, regarding to us, his Chassidim. We were swept up with Mashiach frenzy. That's because he's driving. And the Rebbe complained about that. If you remember, the Rebbe said, you're screaming Ad Masay, because I am screaming through you. It's not you screaming. So what happened? The Rebbe went into the background and kind of gave us space. That's what he did. He gave us space. And in this space, the women that are here tonight in this year made a choice. A choice 28 years later that you're choosing Mashiach. You're choosing Geula. You're choosing to believe. When you're not necessarily, you could choose. You can choose doubt. You can choose apathy. You can choose indifference. You can choose cynicism. You can choose questions. You can choose you can choose. But you're tzadi. You're making the choice for Mashiach, the choice for Geula, the choice for Torah and mitzvahs, even when we're in a state chas v'shalom where it's not as obvious as it was before Gimel Tammuz. So that's number one. But it's not only the Chabad Chassidim, it's influence on the entire world. That humanity should make a choice, not coming from a religious, powerful figure from above, but it should be a choice coming from within the world. If we have to look at it this way, and the Rebbe says, what does tzadi mean? Let me go back to a couple of words the Rebbe says. The Rebbe says is that we should choose, there's the right side. If I had to tell you that this is mamish prophecy, this is the week corresponding to this week. When Shabbos Hagadol, right? It's the week of Shabbos Hagadol. So corresponding to this week, the Rebbe is talking about a choice that needs to be made. Bechira. Yid chooses. And what is he choosing? He could choose either way. But the Rebbe says he's choosing the path of Torah and mitzvahs. But the Rebbe says when you take a look at a tzaddik, the way the tzaddik look, it's a nun. It's a bent nun. The nun is bent. And on top of the yud, on top of the nun is a little yud. And the Rebbe says the meaning of that tzaddik with a yud on the top means that the tzad, which said tzadi means my tzad. Which tzad? It's tzad yamin, because the word yamin, right, starts with a yud. That when we're choosing the right side, not the left side. The side of the Yetzer Tov, not the side of the Yetzer Hara. So take a look what happens in the Israeli elections. This week is Bechiras, choice. The entire country goes to choose. And there was tremendous resistance for all these years since the Medinat Yisroel was established. And there were such powerful forces on the left. And with all the power of the media, and with all the forces up against the right, and slandering and fighting and so on and so forth, what do we see? That this is, everybody realizes it, that the left shrunk. There's hardly anybody on the left. Everybody moved to the right. And when you say moving to the right, it's not just a political thing. The right side means you have more of a caring for the land of Eretz Yisrael, more of a connection to Shleimus Haaretz, more of a connection to tradition, to Torah and mitzvahs. You have that ideology. The left means an idea that you're going to be near Kakala Amma, we're going to be like all the nations, Beis Yisrael. It's without the recognition. Why shouldn't we sit down and make peace with the Arabs? I mean, obviously it's sheer stupidity, but from the perspective, if you don't believe in a Mashiach, and if you don't believe in a future, and if you don't believe in Am Yisrael Chai, then this is going to go on forever, then that's what you come to a conclusion. So the reason why you're choosing the right is because you have a zik shel emunah, you have a think, a think means a spark, you have something burning in you. So the fact that everybody chose to go to the right, I'm learning the Sikha, and then we look what's happening in the world. The Rebbe's talking about a bechira. I'm not saying, obviously this is I'm making a association, but it's interesting. I'm reading this. Tzad Yamin, and the choice is to the right. And the people made this the first time in Israeli history, that the entire country moved to the right. It's incredible. Tzad Sheli. It's not just in America. It's not just in Eretz Yisrael, it's in America as well. That the right side was victorious. And in America too, the right side represents a faith, a belief in God, a respect for Israel, a belief in the Jewish people. The theory on the right side, at least in the religious right, is those who bless her will be blessed by God. And the success of the United States is based on divine blessing. All tzad yamin. A choice needs to be made. And it all has to be done kind of from a credible power, but the credible power that's working silently. But you know what? This is only one part of this unbelievable power. What the Rebbe is saying is the power of Moshe Rabbeinu. But now the Rebbe says, now let's take a look at the word tzadi and add the kuf. Please forgive me for taking another few minutes, okay? Because I think it's worth it. And next week, it's just not going to have the potency other than the fact that next week is already Erev Pesach. But let's Let's add now the letter Kuf. What does happen to the Rebbe? The Rebbe says like this. This is very good when we have to convince the world. To convince the world that the way the world was created was that the world is not godly. And we have to try to inspire an ungodly world to move to the side of holiness. But the world is still neutral. It can move this way, and it can move this way, that way. So, and it's more likely to move to the left, but we change it and move it to the right. And that's that influence. But he says, but what happens? This is Mashiach's coming. The ultimate reality of Mashiach is that there shouldn't be one speck in creation that's not filled with God's truth. That means that the light of Kedusha has to reach even in those places that have already made the wrong choice. Even those that have fallen to the lowest, even those that have gone astray, even those that have already sinned, even those that have disconnected. What's going to be with those elements of creation? Does Shnas HaTzadi, does the power of Moshe Rabbeinu reach below the line? There is a certain line. The line is the line of the neutral. Lower than that is already forbidden. Lower than that is the ugly. Lower than that is that which is antithetical to holiness, that which fights Kedusha, that which is dark, that which is evil. So the Rebbe says that's where we flip out the kuf of the tzaddik. The kuf of the tzaddik comes to deal with the kuf has a long, long leg that goes down. Last week we spoke, or a few weeks ago we spoke, how that long leg of the kuf represents the klipa. The reed of Rome that needs to be amputated. Yeah, but how do we deal with that negative, dark side of the that too, in a sense, could be even transformed through what? Through the tzaddik, through the kuf of tzaddik. That means the power of Moshe Rabbeinu to go down even into the kuf and make a rectification and a transformation even over there. Where do we see that in Moshe? But here. Here is the place that I flipped. I'm sorry to say, but I flipped. Because our Rebbe is a prophet. Not just a prophet, but he's speaking 30 years ago, and he's speaking about what's going to happen in the world 30 years later. The Rebbe says in this, the Rebbe is going to continue, he's going to talk about Lamake Mitzrayim Bivchoideim. That we're going to break the Mitzrayim itself, the forces of Klippa, through their own leaders. Their own leaders are going to flip. What is Bivchoideim? B'choide Mitzrayim means the powers of Mitzrayim, they're going to flip Mitzrayim over. We spoke about Edom being a last force of Klippa, flipped over. America, we see an incredible force that flipped over the country. The country was going into the level, into the zone of the kuf. It was going below the line. It was going into real darkness. It was becoming actually a force against Eretz Yisrael. It was becoming a force against morality. The leadership of America was going deeply below the line. Who switched it over? It was an election. Came from the United States itself. A leader in the United States comes and flips it over. Now watch this, the Rebbe says. Where do we see that power in Moshe Rabbeinu? The Rebbe says Moshe Ish Elokim is not enough. Because Moshe is that infinite, transcendental power. Ish Elokim means that he can go down into a world that's created from the name of Elokim, and elevate over there as well, direct over there as well. Tzadi, to tzadsheli, to elect, to point to the side of Kedusha, to direct the holiness. But the Rebbe says, but that's not good enough. We have to go down into the bowels of the Klippa, and from there turn it over upside down from its very lowest point. Where do you have that in Moshe Rabbeinu? The Rebbe says, yes. Only a Moshe Rabbeinu can say this. Anybody who's not Moshe would never have figured this out. You know what the Rebbe says? Take a look at Moshe Rabbeinu. Where was Moshe Rabbeinu found? Initially, he was put in a little basket, al Sfasa Yaor, by the Nile River. And the Rebbe asked a simple question. We said earlier that Moshe is called Moshe because she put him out of the water. And the element of Moshe represents that Moshe Rabbeinu is from Shem Havaya, that is higher than the world. He mina Maayon, she took him out of the holy waters of the Ein Sof. Wow, unbelievable. The Rebbe says, I don't get it. How can you say that? The waters that Moshe Rabbeinu was hanging out, the water that she drew him out from, the daughter of Paroi, where did she draw him out? She drew him out of the waters of the Nilus. The Nilus is an Avodah Zarah. How are we saying that the water is Shem Havaya, that's higher than the world, if the Nilus is mamish, the total antithetical, it's the lowest clip in the world. It's the Nile River. That's the Getchka of Mitzrayim. So how do we associate it? So the Rebbe says, no, that's exactly the way it works. The highest falls into the lowest. The highest, deepest truth, dafka, manifests itself in the lowest things. So in order to reveal the power of Moshe, to unlock the infinite power that's beyond creation, it requires that the words of the Rebbe are. I don't want to even ruin these words. See what the Rebbe says away, because I didn't read it. Whatever is higher falls lower. In order to reach a lakus that's higher than the creation, darfman unkum, and hear these words and let it sink in. Dafke zu bas paroi, to the daughter of Paroi, ukum, and which is hinted to in her name, bas yudke. Beloshin bas, she's mekabel from yudke, shalamayla mashem avaya, higher. So she's mekabel from the highest place. That she should take Moshe out from a makom shel avodah zarah, meinilus. And through that is the Gilui of Min HaMayim, the highest unlocked powers of Moshe Rabbeinu was revealed. The Gilui from Moshe from Alma Deskasi and Alma Desgalia. In other words, this element that Moshe has the ability to go, and what does Moshe do? He's Mevatel Mitzrayim and he's Mevatel Danilis. She's Mevatel Danilis already. She canceled it. But then Moshe is Mevatel the breaks Mitzrayim because, so the Rebbe says, Moshe is more than just Tzad. We said before, Tzadi, he's in the side, that he's in the middle, like we can choose this way or choose that way. No, we're dealing with a power that's, he says, das was Moshe's given besuf al svasa yaor besmichus zum avodah zarah. He's close to avodah zarah, which is lower than Ish, which represents Moshe's human side. Moshe Rabbeinu goes down low to a place even lower than just being neutral in this world. He goes to a very dark place. And from there, she saw the Shekhinah in that place when she looked at him. And there, and then he grew up in the house of Bas Pari, took him out, grew up in the house of Pari. Moshe the Koyach, that afterwards he should be able to break the klipa from Mitzrayim, and from there take the Yidden out and accomplish this idea of Lamaka Mitzrayim b'vchodeim. So I'm reading this and I'm trying to figure this out. The biggest Lamaka Mitzrayim b'vchodeim is, if you want to be honest and true to yourself, what is happening is this fellow called Donald Trump. He's Lamaka Mitzrayim b'vchodeim. I'm sorry that I keep on mentioning this because this is the Nefloas HaGiyula. And then there is this Bas Pari. Who would be the Bas Pari in this story? So today, I scan the news the whole time. So there's this woman who was very vocal. And she's known not to have liked Jews too much. Okay, she's an extreme. She wrote not that nice things. She used the biggest Trump supporter. Now she became a big critic of his. What's her name? I forgot already. She's a writer. Anyways, Ann Coulter. So today I read an article about her. She says she's dealing with what's called President Javanka. And she's basically claiming that it's not a Trump presidency. It's the President Javanka. Who's Javanka? Jared and Ivanka Trump. That's the president. She obviously, you can see behind the lines that she's very not happy with these Jewish whatever. But she believes that they're the ones who are calling the shots and directing everything, and that's why, the full right-wing extreme agenda is not being followed because they're kind of more moderates. So a guy sees this, and I'm asking you, when they announced the Jerusalem embassy, it was Ivanka Trump that was there. You saw the picture. She's standing over there, revealing it, the emblem. There's an Indian of Bas Pari over here. It's not a joke. You're dealing with the most powerful person in the world, the one who's deciding the policy of the entire world, global, for whichever way. As we said earlier, turned over, and from where? Through a Bas Pari. And the Rebbe says that this is the Indian of Moshe Isha Lekiv. This is the power of Moshe. Because when Moshe is a little baby, he's already turning over Bas Pari. Who made her do tshuva? And Moshe Rabbeinu made her do tshuva. Because Moshe Rabbeinu was in the Nilus, she came down to wash from Avodah. Why did you have to wait that day to start washing from the Nilus just then? Because when Moshe Rabbeinu was in the Nilus, he was being mevatel the Nilus, that she, the Bas Paroi, came to do tshuva, and she took him out. So the power of Moshe Rabbeinu, that's the tzaddik, the kuf, that goes down so low, even into the klip and the sitra achra, and flips it over upside down. And then later the Rebbe goes on to the Sikha, and the Rebbe goes on to say that's the biggest nace, that's Shabbos Hagadol. Is when the lowest shed below becomes an alloy of Kedusha, and then you know there's no Nakudi in the world that's not godly. Learn the Sikha, read the newspaper. Learn the Sikha, read the newspaper. Learn the Sikha, read the newspaper. The two are aligning. And you have unbelievable prophecy. And you're seeing, as we said earlier, there's 3 levels of Moshe, the Rebbe says. There is Moshe as he is a force totally beyond creation. And that the Rebbe finished already. That by 1990, the Rebbe says already it was Matzasi David Avdi, Moshiach was already chosen. He's already Balabasa with the ganze Welt. Now comes phase number 2. Phase number 2 is, number 1, that there should be a choice from within the world that they choose goodness. America was struggling with its own soul. Europe chose the left. America, because of the Friedrich Rebbe and the Rebbe, this country is blessed, that this country, Baruch Hashem, is saved now. And it did not, chas v'shalom, fall into the abyss. Tzad sheli, neutral, going to Kedusha. And then even further than that, to go down into mamish koiches of klipa and turn it over, and the same is also in the Israeli elections. Second level, Ish Elokim. There's a third dimension to the Moshe, is that he's hanging out al svas hanilas. He's going so low to the really dark stuff in creation, flipping them over as well, breaking them and flipping them over. And through who? Through his influence on Bas Pari. Would anybody have believed that all of this was said in Chodesh Nisan Tav Shin Nun Av? Did anybody understand these sichas? What was it meaning at that time? What does it mean today? I rest my case. That's all I have to say. Learn the sikha, and I'm sure I didn't. I just literally scratched the surface of the sikha. Now we're holding Shnas HaTzadik, and we're seeing all of this bizgalus. Again, I rest my case, and everyone have a hopefully. What's next week? Wednesday night. Still the night before B'dikas Chametz. I'm ready to learn. We'll hopefully finish up the last couple of things that I mentioned over here. Hopefully we don't have to. After Yudal of Nisa, we'll all be in Yerushalayim in the third base of Hamikdash already. I'm going to be sending out a petition. Please spread it, that we have to, Ananas of Malchus, we have to vote for the Rebbe. We finished the voting. Now every Yid has to say, I vote for Melech HaMoshiach. Please, you'll spread it. You'll send it. It'll probably be released tomorrow. We have to get it out. We have to campaign. We have to bring thousands and thousands and thousands of Yidden to make this choice. And then I'm no doubt, if we choose Ananas of Malchus, all this is going to be revealed in the world. Take it from Yad Mamish. Be well and all the best.